Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my next Get a Life moment. Delighted today to be joined by Simon Akers, who owns his own marketing consultancy called Archmon. Moved back to my local area recently from London, and that's how we met, through networking. So, hello, Simon.
Hello. You almost called me Saint Simon Akers. Really
I love that.
That was the best gorgeous clip ever.
maybe that's your new title, Saint
I'll take
Simon.
It. I mean, I don't, obviously you clearly, don't know me well enough, but yeah, that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah, maybe. So it's great to have you on Get a Life moment today. For our viewers and listeners, just tell us, who is Simon Akers, or Saint Simon Akers as he's now known?
Okay, Saint Simon, who's the third person? I mean, how long have you got? So I guess from my point of view, I am a self-employed 36-year-old man. I have spent 15 years working in the media and advertising and marketing space. And about 15 months ago, when I was living down in London, I made the decision to go self-employed. It's not my first business, by the way. I've got a litany of failed things behind me, but this was something different. I wanted to go consulting, and I thought, I could work on a day rate, this kind of thing. So I decided to set up Archmon in May last year, and here I am, and I try not to look back.
Brilliant. So that's really interesting. So, there must have been some big decision there to kind of step out on your own as a consultant. So just share with us, what was the journey that you took to get you to where you are now then? What brought this about?
It's more like a roller coaster than a road, to be honest. I suppose my route career-wise is quite unconventional. I mean, I didn't necessarily start off an exec and then get promoted to manager, then promoted to director, none of that. It was kind of, I jumped around when I was younger, tried a lot of different jobs, and always had that itchy feet. I always had that kind of wanderlust and enthusiasm for different things, and I wanted to do a bit of everything, and I'd rather spin a load of plates and this sort of thing. And that was always something that drove me as an individual. Massive stress driver, that is, by the way, trying to do things.
Yeah, I'm going to say all that spinning plates, it sounds exciting,
yes.
But it's not always.
Exactly right. Yeah, now I'm much more focused on like one or two things. But what I will say, the good thing about the preeminent plate spinning was that it does give you, I guess, access and visibility of different things and ways of working and different people. And actually, you kind of get a vibe for like what you like and what you don't like. And actually, you start to work with different leaders, and you think, like, oh, if I was running a business, I'm not saying I'd do it better. I'd never be that arrogant. But I think to myself, I wouldn't be, I'd like to be a bit more sort of open-minded about things. But yeah, you kind of learn, and then I think that's what shapes me, and that's what made me think eventually, I've got all these different experiences, I've got all these contacts, I've got all this expertise. Why not just bring it together, start my own consultancy, build a collective of partners, and just sort of work in an agile way. And I don't have to spin loads of plates at once. I can spin different plates, but in order, okay? So
and the plates you want to spin, there's the other thing,
so if there's a shelf of plates, I'm not trying to do all at once, I'll do one plate, I enjoy that, put it down, have another plate. Yeah, it's great, that's what I do.
Yeah, okay. So what made you take that leap to change from the hustle and bustle of London? Because, I have this idea that being a marketing agency, the glamour and bright lights of the big city, that's where it's all happening. So was that true? What was it? Why are you back to Newark or Lincoln?
Great question. I mean, well, I'm not a kid anymore. I mean, my mother would argue otherwise. But, I'm a grown man now. But I think when you're sort of late 20s, early 30s, I found myself a lot more, I suppose, career driven or ambitious. And I wanted to, I've just written an article about it actually. London was like the mecca, because obviously if you work in advertising and marketing, there's some key places in the world, London, New York, Singapore. This is where like the top world talent businesses are, the Googles and all that sort of thing, right? So for me, being in London was a natural step. And it was something which was going to, I guess, placate my ambition at the time and get exposed to this kind of new level of thinking and the idea that everyone's like, oh, there's like loads of people from over the world going for your job. So, you've got to be really good. And I was like, somehow being the masochist I am, I was like, oh, okay, I can get involved in that. So you do it. But obviously what happens is you get it's quite a stressful thing. And obviously, you know, it's one of the most glamorous industries on paper and one of the glamorous cities in the world. So you work in marketing and advertising at an agency in London. You've got people from all over the world and there's a lot of ambition. And sometimes you work with people who are, I guess, they're not people you'd necessarily want a beer with, you know?
No.
And I think it's fair to say that I reached a point where, you know, I was on an international role. I was traveling the world. I was getting quite ill. And actually, it was my mental health which suffered. But I would say it's burnout to keep things succinct for this conversation. And from that point, I had to make a change.
So did that creep up on you? Were you aware of it? Were you aware of it from the start, or did it just kind of gradually build?
No. The answer is I don't know, Lisa. I believe in Stockholm Syndrome. I believe that people sometimes fear change. And I think you'll see this from a lot of the people you work with.
Yeah.
And there's almost this kind of like inertia of like, oh, I feel like shit, but actually, excuse my language, but you know, it's okay. But everyone feels like that. It's the norm.
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and
no, it's not.
And I challenge that conjecture. Life too short, right? And you know, my mental health got so bad, and I was like going to I was coming off a call with Chicago and Korea, and I was just like panicking and thinking, oh my God, I've got so much to do in the next. I'm really tired. I've got to stay up tonight till midnight and do something. I used to go to the cubicle and do breathing exercises. I'm like, I need to calm down. And then after about a month of doing that, something just told me that maybe
that's not a good way of operating.
Yeah, totally. So I just thought to myself, no. And then actually one day it got really bad. I woke up one morning and I was vomiting. I was crying. I was like, this is bad. And luckily my boss at the time was really fantastic. I went on something called garden leave where they pay you to be up for 3 months. So it was over the summer, so I could watch the World Cup and do some gardening. But that's not the point of this. I think it was just nice to have a little bit of a break.
It was good that you had a supportive leader as well, because most people would just say, oh, you know, bin them, get rid of it. Especially and, you know, maybe it's a perception that's not true, but, you know, I imagine that your industry in London at that level can be quite cutthroat.
Oh, it's the guillotine. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the lack of human empathy and compassion really hurt me. I mean, I came from a background of, you know, my mum was a teaching assistant and my dad's a mental health nurse. And I was kind of the commercial black sheep of the public sector family, right?
Yeah.
And I was sort of from that, even though I had that in me, I was always that kind of more on the empathetic, compassionate side. And to be thrown in with these absolute walls, it's something else. But actually, even amongst them, you do get some people who really do turn up. So there's a guy called Sam, and if he's watching this, he'll know. And I thanked him, you know, remarkably so. He was really supportive of me, and he was great. We met up afterwards. His aftercare package was really good. We met up for a couple of tacos and burritos, and we talked about, which is the best way to meet up, really. And you know, he was saying, anything you need, let me know. Well, how about you try this because you've got this energy? I can give you a reference. And also he was very understanding. And actually what I found when I did open up about my mental health, both on Instagram, Facebook, and then LinkedIn, is the amount of people who actually are a lot more empathetic and a lot more understanding of your situation than you first thought. Because when I was in the cold phase, I was like, oh my God, I'm floundering here and I can't tell anyone, I'm too proud. But now it's like, well, so what? It is who I am. So
the thing is, you know, I think it's so important that people talk about this, because it's so common that people feel like that and feel that they can't say, or, you know, they feel that people will judge them harshly or wrongly or poorly as a result of it. But, you know, for example, suicide is still the biggest killer of men under 45 in the UK.
Yeah.
And it's because they don't feel they can reach out for help. They don't feel that they can say that's how they're feeling. So by you talking about your experience of as you would class it, burnout, it gives other people permission. It gives them permission to say, it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay not to be okay.
You know what was amazing, Lisa, is that when I posted on LinkedIn about last time April, I sort of said what I couldn't. Actually, the title of the article was "What I Felt Like I Couldn't Share 6 months ago," and that's the whole point, right? I was posting it after the fact when I thought I was comfortable,
Yeah.
which is part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? The CEOs and the bosses and these big names that I'll keep anonymous for their for their discretion, they inboxed me and they were messaging me and they were saying, Simon, thank you for your post. It really struck a chord with me. When I was working for this business in New York, I did this. And I was like, wow, the big, powerful, successful you goes through it. And what it made me realize is that we need to normalize the conversation about the human behind leadership. And like I said to someone the other day on a podcast, businesses, books, and business training is all about often marketing, how to network, run a business, hire people. But actually, it's all about the people running it. Like, they have to be on their A game, because we're not spreadsheets. No, we're human beings.
We're human beings. We're not human doings.
Exactly, 100%, right? Our algorithms don't always work. Our system does crash by 4 p.m. So you need to have that little bit of understanding built in, which sometimes lacks.
Yeah. Yeah, which is the work that we're generally doing with leaders, is helping them to understand the leader within. Who are they? What makes them tick? Yeah. What doesn't make them tick? Where do they? Often in business, and I just imagine, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I just imagine in London at that height in that industry, it's a little bit like you're just running and running and running and
totally.
running. A bit like you put your foot down at 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning. You don't take your foot off the gas until midnight.
I liken it to going on the tube, going up the down escalator. You're running up, but you're still going backwards. But going back to your point on the previous question, I think when people can see someone who is in such a, I don't know, high profile industry or job or whatever it is, I think what happens is people assume that that's like, these people are impervious, right? Who aren't maybe doing that, right? And often mental health is something that people open up about traditionally when they've got major, more widely societally accepted issues. It could be, open about depression or suicide. It could be all sorts of postpartum. It could be loads of different things, right? Mm-hmm. But actually, when it's, the man who has got a job or whatever, and it's like, oh, they're all right. Actually, it's really important to actually lift the lid. And if there's one thing that I feel like has happened in the last year, which has been good, is I've seen a couple of people who I know I've encouraged to open up themselves and get involved and open the conversation, which I'm so bloody proud of, because, it's who I am. I believe in being honest, and I believe in the fact that, you can still do good work and be awesome. You don't have to be a robot to be good at your job. It's bullshit. This whole thing about, you've got to be a certain way and a certain personality. I disagree. I think if you've got different qualities, you can map to whatever role you want if you apply.
Absolutely. We all have value, and it doesn't matter what your personality is. You just bring yourself, don't you? You just bring yourself, the best self. It's interesting, isn't it? Do you feel that nobody would wish that experience on any other human? Do you feel that as a result of having had that experience, that you are better equipped now to run your own business?
Yeah. I've really got into Stoic philosophy, right? And I think it's one of the Stoics, it's Marcus Aurelius or Seneca, one of the Roman emperors, said whenever there's got this thing about adversity, and the quote goes something like, just be lucky that it happened to you and no one else. In other words, when bad things happen, actually, you learn from it and you develop from it. And actually, you've got to kind of see it as a passage,
yes.
You become, the whole diamonds fall on depression thing. I know there's a million cliches out there, but when you have something really bad happen and, you feel depressed and, the anxiety is high, you end up having counseling, you end up having tablets, and you end up having the darkest thoughts. The only way is up from that, right? And actually, it fortifies you.
And it's like a breakthrough, isn't it? It is like a breakthrough to a whole other level.
And I'm grateful that I've been through the stuff I have. And 2 years ago I would have said, what is 2020 Simon talking about? But actually I'm so proud of looking back 2 years ago,
Yeah. Well, I'd never be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't experienced burnout myself. So,
really?
Absolutely.
So what's your story then, Lisa?
Oh, well, that's all for another day. We're talking about yeah. But a very short synopsis of that is high profile, high pressured corporate roles. had my daughter, had severe postnatal depression, went back to work very quickly, caught a bug, didn't recover, had post-viral syndrome, had chronic fatigue, and then was labelled with ME. And then sought out complementary therapy as a result of that, and was completely cured. I can say that because I was completely cured with reflexology and homeopathy, and that's when I trained to be a therapist. And now I combine my experience of leadership and therapy to do the two key roles that I do in both businesses, which is therapeutic intervention and coaching, and then leadership development, because I've kind of experienced both from the inside.
Again, thanks for sharing, by the way. I know probably you weren't prepared for me to...
No, I'm quite happy to talk about it. I mean, we're talking 27 years ago. My daughter's 27, so it's a long time ago. But yeah, But
these things shape you, right? I mean...
Of course they do.
And actually, I find that I probably am better at my job now because I've got the mental health pressure has been alleviated somewhat. Yeah. And now I do freelancing. I probably earn a hell of a lot less than I used to, but I'm a hell of a lot happier. And wealth isn't just money. Wealth is everything. It's holistic.
Absolutely.
Yeah? And actually, I enjoy the gigs. I enjoy the consulting work and of projects, and I help businesses get to another plane. And actually, I'm not hamstrung by corporate politics and egos and trying to placate different high-profile people. I can be really agnostic. I can be really from a professional point of view. Yeah. I genuinely think my experience has helped me be more focused and just kind of more empathetic with the way I deal with my partners, my clients, and just, I don't know, I think there's an extra level that kicks in, and I genuinely think it's had benefited me. I'm not just saying that.
But you have to get up, you have to get through the other side of it to see the gift. Sometimes it takes a little while to look back and see the gift.
Yeah, because sometimes you see the mist. It's like, I say, like in COVID a couple of months ago, I use the analogy of sometimes you've got to trust the process. If you're on a plane coming down to land and you go through the clouds, you can't see where you're going, but you know from the radar, the runway's down there. You just got to trust the clouds.
You've got to trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so what are you working on now as we emerge out of this COVID bubble? What are you working on now? What's next? What are you loving?
Well, actually, so when I left London, obviously I set up the business and I was doing some stuff on site with clients, and I was able to do stuff remotely because a lot of what I do is sort of planning and strategy, and I can do that on Google Slides in a coffee shop, right? So I left London in October, and the plan was I live in a development near Newark Northgate Station. So I thought, wow, I'm nearer home, nearer my family. I'm an hour and 15 from King's Cross. I can be at my client's office in an hour and a half. This is the dream, right? But I could do remote work as well. Obviously, COVID happened, and if you're aware, but
I noticed that something was going on there.
My plan went to nothing. So my proximity to the train station was now obsolete. So all I could hear is empty trains going past. But no, seriously, I think it's been really, really good to use that as a way to reassess. For example, I was just talking to a performance marketing magazine just now, actually, and they're saying what's adapted in post-COVID. And actually, a lot of the clients I work with, some of them are bricks and mortar clients with shops, for example. Like they've got an old shop and they're selling stuff. They're having to adapt to e-commerce and online. And actually, that transformation has never been comfortable to them. But actually, it's a fait accompli now. It's like, right, your shop's going to close. You can't pay your. I know someone who runs a showroom for some homeware. She's having to close it because basically she's paying a London fee. You just cannot justify the overheads in London. And she's moving it online and doing affiliate activity. So I'm helping her, hopefully, with that process. And I think there's an element of, number one, I've always done the remote work, but actually what I'm finding is the output is much like yourself, is amending slightly.
Yes.
On the circumstances.
It is interesting though, isn't it? I was having a conversation with somebody else and they're saying all of the things that we probably had planned for down the line has almost been fast-tracked 10 years. Technology has been fast-tracked 10 years. So, when you've got your nan or, on Zoom meetings,
My dad's just got an iPad with Zoom on and he sent me a Zoom link the other day, but I was like on another call. I'm like, Dad, I know you're excited, but I can't click on it.
All the things that we probably wouldn't have done before. I mean, we were quite tech savvy before, but you just look at people who wouldn't have shopped online before are now shopping online. You know, my father-in-law, who's 85, bless him, he's now getting Tesco's deliveries. He would never have done that before. He would never have trusted it before. So, you know, it's fast forwarded us.
Well, there's two things about that, right?
Quickly.
There's two things about that. Number one, from a marketing standpoint, marketers had traditionally said, oh yeah, younger people are online on Facebook and older people are not. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
This has been a demographic leveler in terms of the way people consume and behave.
Yeah.
Number two, from a working standpoint, a cultural standpoint, my argument is that the technology has always been there, but the culture hasn't. So all the micromanagers who want their people in the office 5 days a week and this, that, and the other, they had to adapt to the fait accompli. And in a way, it just makes you realise that a lot of people have transitioned a lot easier than they expected.
And they're more productive and more efficient because they've got a better life balance.
That goes to prove the tech's ready and the people weren't.
And, you know, the other interesting thing is I've spoken to business owners who have properties and saying, getting rid of the offices, don't need them. My people are much happier, much more productive, much more efficient, much more balanced, working from home. I'll provide them with a brand new top of the range laptop or Mac every year. They don't need to be traveling around the M25. They can just do it by Zoom, and it's much more efficient.
It is, and you get more. You know, the commute is now 15 minutes via the fridge as opposed to half an hour. That's the downside.
And the kettle, the fridge and the kettle.
But I have to say, being me personally, I get more. There's little things though. I think it's a balance, right? Overall, I believe in remote working. I believe that actually it's a leveler, and actually I believe there's more opportunities for people who are, say in London, for example, there's still quite an egalitarian like education experience, that school, whatever, that background. And I think sometimes I like to think that there's going to be more opportunities for those who are less privileged, for the want of a better phrase, to get into the sector, because actually it should be a geographic leveler. And I'd like to see a world where the location drop down is removed from job searches. You know, it would be amazing to see that, but who knows? But I do like it now and then, just for balance. Otherwise, I'd get bored of I get annoyed at home all the time.
My biggest challenge is I'm a real hugger, and of course we can't do that at the moment. But hey, virtual. So, as I ask all of my guests before we wrap up for today, thinking about your experience and the journey you've taken and where you are now, what is your top tip for life, Simon?
I know it sounds cheesy and you've probably heard it a million times, but like, only be you, because everyone else is already taken.
That's the one I say. I say that.
But like, it's so true. And I used to think, oh, whatever, it's some cheesy nonsense you read on Instagram. But I mean, it just couldn't be truer. You know, there's enough of convention to go around. There's enough copycatting and the chance to dilute yourself to go round. There's only one of you. And I think now, in the age of remote working and people doing their own thing, I think there's more provenance on people actually really elevating their true self and just being yourself. I mean, look, I might not be everyone's, cup of tea, but I'll definitely be a few people's, shot of vodka or a whiskey. And I think it's just really important to be authentic because, you can't, because business is up and down enough, right? Business is hard, right? You've got to have a common denominator, and it can't be your self-deception. It has to be, you've got to be true to yourself. And then only there can you be able to go, you know what? Be honest. I'm smashing it this month, and April and May was a horror show. Just be honest about it, because that's the only way you can thrive, I think.
Yeah. Or like me, just turn up to a business meeting on Zoom like I just did in Flamingo Friday, because I'd done Flamingo Friday before that, so I got my flamingos on there.
Or bring a coffee and a bacon sandwich.
Why not? Why not? I did another interview the week before last, and somebody, it's somebody quite a high profile person, and the dog started barking, and he just shouted, "Ben, will you just shut that dog up?" And he went, "You can leave that in."
You see, this is the other thing about working from home. I don't know whether I doubt I'm fortunate about it, but I live on my own, so I don't have family or kids running around or anything like that. But I imagine that is another challenge about, working from home. And it's quite funny when one of my clients, I speak to him down in Hampshire, and his little boy and girl walk in, and they're like, "Oh, can I have that yogurt?" And it's just so funny. And
I think it's hilarious. I've seen
how earnest they are. They don't care about any decorum. They're like, "Sod it." Like the dog comes and licks you, the kid wants to have a
There was,
biscuit.
there was somebody on the TV, wasn't there? A really serious interview.
Yes, you can have 2 biscuits.
And the cat came in, and the cat's tail just went like this in front of the screen. Or there's been ones where, you know, somebody's been on screen and the partners walk past in their underwear past the door.
Oh my God, that was amazing. I just like the one, the little.
Human.
And everyone was talking about the boy who is the best negotiator ever. His mum was on the thing on BBC News, and he comes in and goes, "Can I have 2 biscuits?" She goes, "Yes, you can have 2 biscuits. Go away."
I love it. I love it. Well, that's brilliant. It's given us a smile for today. Yes, just turn up as yourself. Definitely.
Arnie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's been an absolute blast. Thanks.
It has been. Really, thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.